Okay, can we just admit that Remake may not... How you doing, guys? Wyldehigh77 here to give you the first ever Wyldehigh reviews for Sounds Dicey Gaming. And today we're going to talk about a game that I literally just finished last night. The video for the final episode has gone up on the Sounds Dicey Gaming. We are talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake. Guys, understand, from years ago, I have been a huge fan of the Final Fantasy franchise. From back when I was a child, well, not a child, I was 20 years old. I was working at a game store when the first Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation X, or PlayStation 1, for those that know it that way, first came out. And I had not even owned a PlayStation yet. I literally bought the game the day it released and set it on my mantle in my living room to save up the money to buy a PlayStation specifically for this game. Like, to say that this game has a very special place in my heart is completely an understatement. Now, that being said, let's talk for a moment after the preview. I'm going to let the preview play. After the preview, I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions of Final Fantasy. Oh, and to let you know, before the preview, there will be a spoiler warning on this, because I'm going to be talking spoilers. I think enough time has passed since the game is released that we could discuss the game in detail and not worry about spoiling it for anybody else. So if you have not played this game and you don't want things spoiled for you, stop the video right now. Don't watch this video, all right? Save it, put it in your watch later list, finish the game, come back and watch it. To everybody else, after the trailer,
So, Cloud, you were a soldier first class, right?
Yeah.
Weird.
Really? What's weird about it?
Nothing. Just that you were the same rank.
Huh? As who?
The first guy I ever loved.
Oh.
Wow. Your eyes.
Yes, Aerith is an ancient. Probably the last one living.
You know you're not just any little girl. You're a descendant of the ancients.
You're wrong! I'm not an ancient!
When we're older, and you're a famous soldier, if I'm ever trapped or in trouble, promise, you'll come and save me.
Sephiroth, soldiers. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of all of this!
I've never been so proud. Women must be hounding you day and night.
I'd really love to stay and chat, but we gotta go.
So soon?
Got more pizza in the oven? I'll take another
wedge! Looky here, boys! Burglars!
Tifa! I'm coming for you!
Viciously! Without mercy! Until they vomit blood!
You seek my approval, do you?
I should warn you.
Huh?
Tails, you lose.
Give it back!
Give it back.
Are you going?
I'm sorry, honey. I wish I didn't have to.
Shinra has confirmed the reactor to be the target of the bomb threat.
Shinra's decided they ought to stamp them out!
The sky is falling, and Avalanche is to blame.
But I work for Shinra. I'm the enemy.
I don't care.
Greetings and welcome. Avalanche, I presume.
You mean you're not here to give President Shinra his comeuppance?
I've also drafted a
That will not be needed.
Huh? 2 words, Reeve. Neo Midgar.
Come on, let's push it past the red line! Stop them, you fools! Don't let them escape!
They're going to drop the plate on us?
Yes.
Whispers, perhaps best described as arbiters of fate.
No, you don't! Not when I'm working!
I promise you will regret this.
The sector in which you stand has been condemned.
You're a soldier, aren't you? Which, of course, would mean that I own you. Through suffering, you will grow strong. Isn't that what you want?
Come on, you see the piece of shit we're driving here?
Says the 300-pound sack of it.
Hey!
Justice, honor, freedom, vain indulgences everywhere.
Every time the whispers touch me, I lose something, a part of myself.
Tonight marks a new beginning. For Shinra!
This could well be her last line of defense. Let's go.
Let us defy destiny. Together. Cloud, there's still so much to be done.
Oh, you fucking twat. We got ourselves a fucking spoiler.
Alright, so Final Fantasy VII Remake. Guys, first and foremost, I'm going to talk about like the good, the bad, the ugly, the spoilers, the things about this game that I love, the things that I hated about this game, and of course, at the end, I'm going to give you my overall impression. I hate using arbitrary numbers, but it's going to be kind of a ratings type deal. Let's get to it. Final Fantasy VII Remake. First off, we've waited decades for this. I mean, the speculation of a remake for Final Fantasy VII was rampant forever. But then we finally got it this past month. Well, past couple weeks. It's been like, what, 2-3 weeks the game's been out? And during that time, I can't tell you how much I chomped at the bit to play this game. And of course I played the demo. You've seen the first look here on Sounds Dicey of me trying the demo of the game, and afterwards it fulfilled my need. It absolutely was a Final Fantasy game to me. It very much paid homage to the original bombing run scene of Final Fantasy VII. And then we get to the game itself. Now that we have the game, of course that scene is still in there, but a little elongated. There's a little more to it. Some backstory, some cutscenes that weren't in the original demo, that also weren't in the original game. And I think that's part of the theme of what this game is it's an homage to Final Fantasy VII, but it's not a remake. Like I said in the intro, is remake the proper word for this game? Yeah, it had a lot of story beats. It's keeping the overall story of death and discovering oneself and place in the world, but now there's an overarching theme of fate and whether or not you could beat fate or change your fate or your destiny, which has been introduced with characters known as ghostly spirits, almost like the Dementors of Harry Potter, that interject in any time that the story is going to go out of focus, out of the way the original game went, that are called Whisperers. And quite honestly, I didn't know what to make of them at first. I'm like, what is this? You know, but overall, the gameplay, even with that, was phenomenal. Like, it was very easy to get used to the gameplay mechanics for combat. Of course, I missed the turn-based, active time-based system that Final Fantasy VII originally was, kind of, sort of. But the new system really does feel like old-school mechanics, like an active time-based, mixed with I would say like a Final Fantasy 15 style combat system. I've heard arguments that other people compared it a little bit to Kingdom Hearts, and that's not wrong. You have the ability to hack and slash, and you have your ability to do like a more menacing attack. And then you have the ability to stop time through menu base to be able to use your spells or a special attack or your limit break or items, which was the items thing was something I found to be a little weird. I honestly, in my playthrough, I didn't use items all that much, mostly because of the fact that I thought that it was very, very weird. That I had to charge up my meter to be able to use spells or to use the specialty attacks, made sense to me. That's fine. Okay, I gotta whack at people a little bit to do that, but to use an item like to bring somebody back from the dead with a phoenix down, or to throw a potion on one of my characters, that felt weird to me. I don't know if you guys feel any different about it. To me, it just that felt a little out of place. I think items, if it were me, I think items should have been a consistent use, the same as like your basic attack movement. Beyond that, though, the idea I thought I would have struggling with switching from character to character overall, or when I'm not using a character, they would become completely pointless and useless, honestly was not the case. It became very seamless and smooth to be able to switch between Cloud, Barret, Tifa, Eris, back and forth, back and forth. In fact, it was a good strategy for some battles because the characters, the enemies that you would face, particularly bosses, would always target whoever it is you're controlling first and foremost. So if you're constantly switching, you're negating half of their attacks. At least that's what I found, which helped out a lot because some of these battles are intense. Especially the boss fights, like the normal creatures, not too bad, and especially when you start leveling up your weapons and your characters start getting higher level, the game progresses with you. So as you get harder, the creatures become harder. But overall, the normal creatures were not difficult to handle. The bosses, on the other hand, though, wow, most of these bosses had the ability to do specialty type attacks that could really melt your hit points, or they had items or not items, like specials or spells that would render you inert or unable to move or asleep, or incapacitated in some way, shape, or form, and you're literally forced to have to switch to one of the other characters because the character you're controlling is no longer usable. He just stands there taking punishment. There are some creatures that do that in a way, and it's kind of a neat little thing where like it would latch onto your character, and the only way to really get rid of it is to switch over to another character and attack it off of the original character. There was some great game mechanics in that, but overall, the biggest challenge in this game was the bosses. And the later game, like the Harbinger of Fate and Surprise, as I said in the beginning, it's a spoiler, Sephiroth, were wow battles. I was thoroughly shocked and impressed with how difficult but yet manageable these bosses were. Little off-putted about how they fit into the story arc. Again, being a person who played the original Final Fantasy VII, so it felt out of place to me. And that's the thing. I had to keep reminding myself that this is no longer Final Fantasy VII of 1997. This is 2020, a remake. And again, I don't think remake is the proper word. I think for this, it is literally a reimagining or maybe a parallel dimension sequel. I don't even like to use the term reboot because it's not to my mind, it's not a reboot. But the fact of the matter is once you beat the Harbinger of Fate, you have opened up the world now for the subsequent games that are going to be coming after the Midgar series sequence, which this game is. to a whole new possibility. This game is no longer going to be a remake of Final Fantasy VII, because of the fact that now, as they stated at the end of the game, the unknown journey is about to begin, meaning that this is going to be a completely new story, and it's going to have a completely different outcome in some way, shape, or form. And I mean, they teased that throughout this game with shockers and surprises. Sephiroth showing up so early and being shown as the main baddie in a time when you play the original game, you knew nothing really about Sephiroth other than his legend. And, you know, as far as you're concerned, President Shinra was the main baddie of the game until he wasn't. So they, at first, it felt like they were letting the cat out of the bag with that. And you know, other points that they did that you just didn't see coming, which I thought was great until they retconned themselves. Such as Biggs and Wedge surviving the collapse of the Sector 7 plate over top of the slums. I get it, but I don't get it. Because in the original game, they died. All three. Jesse, Wedge, Biggs, all died. You know, in that sequence. But in this game, only Jesse died. And a lot of people were upset about that because they made us care about three throwaway characters of Avalanche. They had phenomenal roles in this series to become more of a true supporting cast than they were back in Final Fantasy VII. I think they were fleshed out a hell of a lot more. Although I still stand firmly that Biggs is just a clone of Charlie Harper, Charlie Sheen. But or Topper Harley as he was in Hot Shots, really. But you know, great character design. Speaking of character designs, Midgar itself has never felt more alive. From the world aesthetics and the graphics and the art design and the level design of the different sections and the different areas, and even traversing between those areas, as linear as sometimes it felt, this world felt alive. It felt, you could smell the body odor and the fried food and you know, the sewage back up over by the bar. Like, you could taste and smell and hear and feel Midgar as you're playing this game, especially in the slums. We get a little look at the upper levels when you go on a divergence quest to help Jesse attain more explosives for the second reactor bombing run. But overall, we spend majority of our time in the slums in this game, and this is a realistic world, and with a realistic world, you need a realistic cast. Every character in this game, whether it's just a random NPC standing in the background speaking, or somebody you can interact with to get a side quest from, everybody felt alive and like they had a purpose and a place in this game. In this world. It was masterfully done. And as I said, even traversing the environment felt natural. You know, when you left the church, for example, in Sector 5 slums, and you traverse from the slums, not on the rooftop like you originally did, but like on the ground, heading to Sector 5 slums, everything made sense to it. Everything felt like a lived-in environment. That, to me, was masterful world building. And even more so, the explanation of day and night and everything else being held by the upper plate, having lights shining down to replicate either starlight or sunlight to the people in the slums was brilliant. It was a beautiful sci-fi addition to this world. And then, of course, when we're talking about the world, we can't forget, you know, not only the reactors, who looked like the reactors as you would imagine they would have when you were playing the 16 or 32-bit Final Fantasy from back in the day. You imagine if it looked like real life, this is what it would look like. It was really well thought out, well done, just great level design and thought process went into this game. Which leads to one of my complaints, was traversing the game. There were too many times where, I guess to further the story or the narrative that was going on between Cloud and company at times, where they locked your camera in one position where you couldn't see where you were going or what you were doing, or your characters just could not move beyond a slow crawl walk. I hated this game mechanic. I wanted to be able to continue to move at speed, and I wanted to be able to freely control my camera to be able to look around, because I didn't want to miss anything. I didn't want to miss boxes that you could swipe open, or a treasure chest somewhere, or God forbid, a piece of materia that was hidden in a corner somewhere, but because I was looking this way and it was over here, I couldn't see it because I can't move my camera around thanks to the story narrative. If there was one major complaint in this whole entire game, it is that sometimes that happened in the game and it seemed like it was very inopportune, or at least a minor inconvenience within the flow of the game. For me, it took me out of the immersion of the world, which I really was immersed in this world. It wasn't just because I was a Final Fantasy fan. It was because this was a well-built world. And that was something that really, really bothered me. Overall, though, the game mechanics were just as you expected them to be. They were not too dissimilar from Final Fantasy VII. Like, the materia system was back in play. You leveled it up by using them and having them connected to your weapons and armor, just like you did in Final Fantasy VII. Although the new weapon system was, in my opinion, a lot better. Because not only could you use your Buster Sword until you got the next sword, like Hard Edge or something like that, but you kept your Buster Sword not because of the fact that the game wouldn't let you get rid of it, but because there was a leveling system to the weapons where you actually made the weapons and in turn made yourself stronger. It is very possible to run through this whole entire game using the Buster Sword and not using any other weapon. And you could level up the Buster Sword to be as powerful as any other weapon in the game. It was a neat mechanic. However, of course, you want to use all the weapons because using the weapons gives you access to more special attacks and abilities, which was a very smart design. It forces you to use the other weapons and to level up the other weapons. So I thought it was phenomenal. Another aspect I really loved was the new design of the summon materia. It did not take over slots in your weapons inventory. You get one summon materia slot on your person itself for one summon. And instead of that summon being something that takes magic points and you get a 3-minute cutscene of the creature coming out, throwing out its best attack, and then disappearing. Instead of that, you get a alongside character who is running. You don't control him, but he runs around, he attacks, or she, and deals out until this timer runs out. And once that timer runs out, that's when it gives its ultimate attack, like Ifrit's Hellfire or Shiva's Diamond Dust. That was a cool mechanic. I liked seeing the summons come out. I liked that, for lack of a better term, Final Fantasy XII feel, where the summon is working alongside you as opposed to something that replaces you. However, better than Final Fantasy XII. With Final Fantasy XII, when you summoned one of the summons in that game, the character who summoned it stayed, but everybody else disappeared. Same with Final Fantasy X. In this one, your party's still there. They're still battling, so it's like having a fourth member out on the field for that short period of time. The disadvantage to it, though, is you can only summon when the summon decides to appear. When the bar first shows up, it has to fill up for you to be able to even summon him. And he only shows up when the game decides the enemy you're facing is difficult enough to warrant a summons to come out. I wish there was a little bit more control where you could pick and choose when the summons comes, but when it comes, it's a great, great addition. The ending. We've got to discuss the ending. I, like many people who have reviewed this game before me, am at a loss of words as to what is going on with certain aspects of the ending. I do not get why we got to see the beat-for-beat ending of Crisis Core with Zack, with the obvious exception that Zack survives and is walking off into the distance with Cloud, where Zack dies at that point and Cloud walks into the distance on his own. I don't know if that means if Zack is alive or not. I don't know what implications that's going to have for the future. There's questions I still have about the Whispers and the Fates. Is the Fates going to come back in some way, shape, or form to kind of mold this story arc to come back to the way we know Final Fantasy to end? I don't know. And I think that's one of the exciting things about Final Fantasy VII Remake is the fact that it left me wondering and being in the unknown, as opposed to what I expected. I expected we take on the tank and the highway scene, we beat that, and now we're outside of Midgar and we're staring at the unknown future. That's how I expected it to end, vowing to search out Sephiroth and defeat him. I did not expect the game to go the way it went, and then open up this whole new world that I never thought we would have within a Final Fantasy game. Is it a good ending? Yes. Is it a perfect ending? No. And the reason I say it's not a perfect ending is because I think for this game, it fits the mood and theme that they were going for. However, for something that carries the Final Fantasy VII name, I wish they were a little bit more clear about what it means for the future. But I'm fair enough to admit, I know they were being vague with it because they want you to get Part 2 when it releases. This is not one game. This is one of several games that are coming. So the thing is that I don't know how to rate this game. And the reason I don't know how to rate this game is because do I look at it from nostalgic eyes? And nostalgic eyes, as I said, it pays perfect homage to the original Final Fantasy VII. The 3-hour part of the first disc that spends in Midgar. But I can't tell you what to think about this game. I can't tell. I can recommend you play it, absolutely, but I think it's one of those things where the recommendation has to be, you have to play it for yourself. You have to experience it, because that's the word I would use, is that this isn't just playing a game. This is experiencing Final Fantasy VII in such a new way. And it's an experience that I can't tell you how to feel about it. You have to experience it for yourself. It has its ups, it has its downs, it has its good and some nitpicky bad parts. But overall, for me, it was a phenomenal game. One that I feel was money and time well spent. I don't know how I feel about spending more money for the rest of the game. But for now, I'm ready for Part 2. But my opinion shouldn't matter. What's your opinion of it? You guys need to play the game. You guys need to view your own opinion, or form your own opinion, your own decision on whether this game lived up to the expectations of decades of waiting for this remake to one of the most beloved games, not only in the franchise, but pretty much in video game history. Guys, tell me what you guys think. Leave a comment in the section down below. Did you love this game? Did you hate this game? Like, share, comment, subscribe. Check out all the video game Let's Plays, including Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is now completed. You could binge watch the whole thing as I ran through it for the first time blindly, and loved every minute of it. And I made it abundantly clear as I was playing it. And the other video game Let's Plays that are there. And, of course, go over to our sister channel, Realm of the Mist Entertainment, for all your podcasting needs, including a brand new, up-to-date It Had to Be Said with Venus. Check it out. You're going to love it. And, of course, if you prefer your podcast in audio-only format, check out Realm of the Mist Entertainment on Anchor.fm, Apple iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever quality podcasts can be heard. Guys, thanks again for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I want to play it again. I need to play it again. There's things I still need to find and handle. But yeah, get it. Play it for yourself. Form your own opinion.